Hello everybody, I'm Chris. I just wanted to make a short little video for you guys to give you some information about the 2020 wines that we're releasing today. A very exciting day for us. It's our brand new shop in our member section is open for the members for the next 12 days, starting this morning at about half an hour ago, 9 o'clock. You know, there is a lot of written information about the wines in the shop and a little in the mailer, but I think a video might be useful to you. I'm going to try to keep it short, but I can be a bit long-winded, as you know. So if it feels like I'm jumping through the wines a little bit, it's a time thing. A quick synopsis of the vintage 2020, generally very good. Some real highlights, a few lowlights. Most of the lowlights were yield orientated or yield related. We had some very, very low yields in some of our most important vineyards, unfortunately. So there is less 2020 wine to sell, but it is what it is. It was also a vintage that I took a great deal of care with the thought process, the blending process, especially for Cartology. Cartology 2020 is our 10th bottling of this wine, and it's kind of the main event. I know it's not our most expensive wine, but in many ways it's our most important wine. Just in terms of getting the message of what we're trying to do out there to the global wine drinking community and the people that are excited about South African wine. Cartology is, it's very special for us. So the 10th bottling, I put a great deal of time and effort into making sure that it's right. Palate weight wise, very similar to 2019, maybe a little bit less nervous and maybe a bit more aromatic, fantastic nose. I think the palate weight is spot on. This is the aesthetic that we're looking for in the wines. You know, it's not a massive blousy wine. It's generous enough, but it's also very, very digestible, drinkable. I think a couple on a date out shouldn't struggle to get through a bottle, you know. The trouble with a lot of wines these days is they're massive and chunky and clunky, and you know, the first glass can be pretty good, but it's a fight to get through the bottle, and I don't want any of our wines to be like that. Okay, so Cartology 2020, it's our 10th vintage of Cartology, and there's quite a bit less of it, unfortunately, but I'm very, very proud of this wine. I'm going to start shooting through the wines now because I don't want to go too long. All right, we only have 2 single vintage Chenin this year, these two, because these two didn't make it. This one, Broom Ridge, our own farm, oddly enough, didn't make the cut in 2020. So these are just props, by the way. These are all Cartology bottles that we put last year's labels onto, just to give you something to look at to help you understand what's going on. Right after our second pick on Broom Ridge, just before we started picking the kind of vineyards that usually make this wine, we had 16 mils of rain, and in those granite soils, the rain just sort of sat there. And unfortunately, the wines, they were great wines, but they just didn't have that kind of X factor, that essential concentration that made the 2019 so special for me. So I decided to protect you know, your brand is the only currency that you really have, you know, and if you break trust on that, then what do you have? You know, so rather to protect the quality, we decided not to bottle a Broom Ridge 2020. Huilkrans was quite a different reason, and this was too much rain, this was not enough rain. So very, very dry up in this part of the world in 2020. In fact, I would say it's the worst I've ever seen a vineyard in terms of drought damage. Thankfully, it's raising its head again now. We had a reasonably good 2021, which is now in barrel. But I decided not to bottle the Huilkrans 2020. It was very interesting and good, but we had to pick it very early just to save the vines. So I decided not to bottle it on its own. So that's those two. Now you know. So your 2 options for single vintage Chenins for 2020 are these old stalwarts. Nautical Dawn 2020. I think it's probably the best Nautical Dawn bottling so far. It really exemplifies that sort of salty tension that we get on Ristenhof on the Falsback coast. You know, it's got plenty of fruit, that sort of yellow fruit spectrum, and always great acidity, but it's got that lovely sort of tension, that X factor that the wine has pretty much every vintage, and this really catches the essence of the place. I'm very happy with the wine. Magnetic North 2020. I've put a 6 bottle limit on this wine for you for the mailing list, and potentially should have made it a bit stricter. Because I do still want our importers to get some of the wine. I haven't bottled a wine like this before. I can't exactly explain why the wine smells and tastes the way that it does. This vineyard has always produced stunning wines. I don't know what happened in 2020. I don't know why. It was one 2,000 litre foudre. It's very much a high point for me. And not just, you know, as a winemaker, I was going to say as a winemaker, but you know, we didn't do anything different. It's just, yeah, we did everything that we usually do, and the wine came out like this. So, see what you think. I think it's pretty special. Okay, La Colline makes a comeback. It's not called La Colline anymore. It's now called Monument Semillon. That's it's a legal thing. There's another guy who makes wine who registered the name La Colline back in the 1970s. We obviously never registered it because it was just the name of the fruit farm that we were buying the grapes from, and the family's farm name, so why would we register it? So we unfortunately lost the name. It is a shame, but I think we've gained a beautiful name, and because the vineyard is in itself something like a monument for the old Semillon DNA that we have in South Africa, so I love the new name. Plus there's always been a picture of the Franschhoek monument on the label. This is our smallest production of the year. It was just over 1,000 litres, so there's a 3 bottle limit for you on this wine. Yeah, again, I think it's a very good vintage of the La Colline vineyard. Very happy with it. I think palate weight, we didn't bottle a 19, as you know. I wasn't 100% happy with the wine. I would say it's similar to 18, but it's not really. It's a bit closer to 16. Very nice palate weight, relatively generous. And as you know, with Semillon, it's not so much about length, although it's long enough, but it's more about depth and about texture. And this wine has got fantastic texture and very, very interesting flavors. It's got that sort of marzipan, tangerine skin thing going on. And not very reductive, oddly. Usually the Semillon is quite reductive. Okay, moving on. Huilkrans 2020, another real high point for us. It's a 2019 label, but that's okay. A real high point for us. I had a bottle last night with Hans and Marianne, and the vineyard just keeps on getting better and better as it's maturing. A great deal of effort gets put into the farming, and you really can taste it in the wine. I think it's an outstanding deal. You know, just because it's in our portfolio of relatively expensive old vine wines, you know, sometimes it can be overlooked, or it seems like a mismatch or a square peg in a round hole, you know, in this portfolio of old vineyard wines. But I can assure you that it, quality-wise, will hold its own with any of these wines. In fact, on paper, from a winemaker's perspective, it's pretty much the best wine we make. From a ripeness versus acidity and pH point of view, it's beautiful. So give it a try. 2020, I think, is another small step up from 19, which was a small step up from 18. So we're going somewhere with this vineyard. Hopefully we've had fantastic critical feedback for it, and hopefully that continues this year. And then the blank bottle is here to remind me of a very special new wine that we're releasing now in the shop. It's going to be sort of a little brother for Cartology. The wine is called Here After Here. Not Year After Year, Here After Here, which seems like another odd name from us, and there are good reasons for the name. I thought long and hard about it, and I like the name very much. You'll notice with the single vineyards, mostly it's picture labels. For the mixed origin wines, it's mostly text. So this will also be mostly a text label. We've gone for quite a beautiful classic look, and it's got a little green capsule. So Here After Here, you know, in agriculture you have to plant. And on our own farm, we'll be planting a lot of vineyards over the next 5 years. And we've got growers, 2 in particular, that have very, very good young vineyards already planted, that we're very privileged to work with. So Here After Here is a young vine, Shannon. So all the same rules basically apply. It's bush vines, it's dry farming is the key, and planting young vineyards, Shannon, for the future. The lovely thing about doing that is that you can choose the site and the material that you plant, so you can really plant for with a long term in mind, and with your kids in mind, which is quite exciting. And that wine will then be the least expensive wine in our portfolio of wines, and I think an outstanding value proposition. So that's 2020, guys. that's all from me. That's probably already too long. Enjoy the wines. Cheers. And enjoy the shopping experience. It's yeah, it's all new for us. You know, the new shop, the whole thing, and we hope it runs smoothly. We've put a lot of work into it, and I always like to sign off by reminding you that, you know, these wines, they really are our life's work. You know, this is what we do. We don't do anything else. We put a great deal of effort into expressing these vineyards faithfully, you know, into looking after them and into getting them into bottle in the right way, in an unadulterated, pure way, so that you can have a very clean, pure drinking experience of real Cape wine. Yeah, so enjoy it. Cheers.